Back with another one.
That's right. Hello. Welcome to the Napoleon and Gueco podcast.
Night edition.
Oh, wow. Why?
Oh,
Is it
well, not
nighttime where
really.
you are?
Here it's like 4 p.m., like 3 p.m. for you, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like
I'm
7
in
for me, or
Pacific
6 for
time,
me.
you're in Eastern time zone, so I understand it will definitely turn night earlier over there. But I
Hey,
don't
you
think
get
during the
both.
summer it
In
doesn't
the
get dark
Wacko
that
Napoleon
early.
show, you get both. You get night and day,
Oh, that's
baby.
true. That is possible. That's right. 2 for 1, right?
2 for 1, man. What else can you ask for in this day and age?
I know, because everybody's cutting back. Everything's getting more expensive. It's kind of like Dollar Tree now charges $1.25 for everything.
Yeah, it's not Dollar Tree anymore.
It
It's
really
dollar
is.
and a quarter tree.
That's what they should rename it, but I'm pretty sure that cost them a whole lot to change all of their signs. They'd rather just charge you more money and keep the same sign.
Yeah, you gotta pay for those credit card fees.
That's crazy how a lot of places do charge those. How I actually believe that they say if you go to a store and you pay cash, the store or whoever you're giving it to, they keep all of it. But if you run your credit card, the bank actually keeps a percentage of the transaction. And
Yeah,
some places do. That's why some places charge transaction fees. But,
right.
Dollar Tree or just Walmart, they won't do that. You could run your credit card. You're still paying the same as if you paid cash. But the
Right.
store doesn't keep all of the money. And that's
I mean,
probably why the
most
banks.
places you don't pay extra for using your credit card.
Right.
It's already added to the price of what you're getting, that the credit card charge. So even if you pay cash, they still raise the price, given that they have to pay the credit card charge a lot of times.
Oh,
So basically, it's part of the inflation.
all right. So Dollar Tree pre-raised it. So even if whether or not you're paying cash, they're still going to get whatever money they want. But if you pay cash, the store's just getting a little bit of a bonus. See,
It is, yeah, it is, because it's not counting as a
that would make
credit card
sense.
transaction.
Because it's kind of like I'd go to a vending machine and I would see, hey, these candy bars are this price here. And someone was telling me, oh no, just get them at Walmart. They're cheaper. And I was like, yeah, but you got to pay sales tax. You don't have to do that. When it's the vending machine, you put in the money and that's it. And he
Oh,
was like, no, they have tax included in the vending machine. And that it usually will round up. They always round it to the nearest quarter. It'll say $1.25, stuff like that. But I will compare it like in the area, say, okay, this candy bar's $1.50 in the vending machine, but then you go to Walmart, it's like 97 cents or 94 cents because Walmart, they don't really round everything off to the nearest 5 or 0.
right.
But they're right.
So I got a quick story. Like, I was coming from Mexico to United
Yeah.
States, and I had to be in a immigration holdup
Oh, wow.
to get into, not because of any, like, it was just standard procedure.
Of course.
Given my situation, I had to be in a immigration holdup. And basically, you can get asked to come in. They'll ask you questions, and then you'll be on your way if nothing's wrong, right? But most of the people were just waiting there for a little bit, and then they get out of the place, like without any hassle or any questions or nothing. But in any case, we were waiting there, and there were vending machines. So I put my money in there, thinking I was gonna get some water or some candy. I can't remember what. Nothing came out. No candy came out. No change. Nothing. So I'm starting to bang the vending machine. Nothing comes out, and I was like, "Fine. Like, what am I gonna do? You know, complain to officers inside who have my paperwork and might call me in for questioning, or just let it go for like $3.50." So I let it go. I didn't bang the machine in that scenario, but that's probably the only scenario where I was okay spending my money. In any case, they let me go with no questioning, and I was on my way to the promised land to make the dollars again.
Hopefully. Well, you're up in Maine right now. Looks like that's happening.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm starting to get busy, man. Yeah. So yeah, man. I know. Speaking of taxes, Nevada, I've heard that they have very good amenities and like parks and stuff for the public because of all the revenue that comes in from taxes. Is that true? Is that like a legend or like a myth, or is that true?
There are certain taxes and fees. They do have certain credit card charges that you might see around a lot of the casinos, hotels, and places you wouldn't see a lot of other places. But they're one of the few states that does not have a state income tax either.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
But so I imagine usually when that happens, I've noticed consistently if there's one state that doesn't have an income tax, then they probably have really high property taxes, which that's the case with Texas. But like Nevada, I have to pay a crazy amount on my vehicle registration fees and stuff for my car. And, my parents are like, "Well, hey, that's crazy. Like they don't charge us that much for our vehicle registration in Texas, but the deal is they charge more for that because
Right.
Nevada doesn't have as high property taxes." So same
Oh,
thing too. It's kind of like there will be certain states that don't have as high sales taxes or property taxes, but then they do have a state income tax. So the tax rules are different in so many states. Sure, there will be some states where they're higher than others, like California, there's taxes everywhere. If you compare like Texas, Nevada, or just even other states like, Colorado, Oregon, Florida, they all have certain taxes that are higher than others, lower than others. But at the end of the day, if you add up your expenses for the year, sure, some states might be a little bit higher depending on the cost of living, but the government's going to get their money one way or another. So just because you're like, hey, these taxes are lower here, then one of the other taxes will be higher. You will be paying more for something else. And that's just how it is everywhere.
yeah, man. Cool, man. And so, what do you got for us today? Any interesting stuff going through your head?
Yeah, one thing that kind of gets me is that you ever see instances like say there's some kid in school that gets bullied a lot or something like that, then finally one day like they take action, they strike out against the bully, they stand up, maybe punch him, but then that kid is the one that gets in trouble. Or just it's that way, it seems to be that way with society in general. Like there could be times that you could be maybe at a comedy show and then there's people in the audience that are causing trouble, or just you're at a movie theater, people are disturbing you, and you tell them to shut up or whatever, you automatically look like the bad guy just for trying to like get them to stop being annoying.
Yeah,
That's just kind of something that makes me mad. You have person A that's causing problems to person B, and then it's like if person B stands up, they're the one that gets in trouble, and person A just gets away scot free.
yeah. I think it has to do a little bit too with for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. So the person that, person B is taking it for a while, and person A just is just picking, picking at the bear kind of thing. And then finally person B has a overreaction where they go, shut the fuck up. And it
Exactly.
wasn't that big of a deal, but it was, constant, it added up, and then, the boiling point came to an end. But yeah, I agree with you that, society a lot of times punishes the person that stands up for it, or has some kind of gumption to go after the person that's causing the trouble in the first place, where most people just keep quiet, right? Like they go about their day. They don't have, person A doesn't have any negative repercussions for being picking at people or whatever it is. Finally, and then they get in trouble for overreacting. I don't know if you would call it overreacting. Like I said, is, it's just building up to the point that,
Right.
that it might look like an overreaction, but it might not be. It might be a necessary evil kind of thing to stop person A from continuing that behavior.
Well, that was the whole thing. It's kind of like there was a movie where someone was being mean to someone else, or they were like trying to fight them, then the other person knocked them out, and they were like, "Oh, how could you do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that guy deserved to get knocked out." You have the person A who just they don't really seem to care, they don't really think much of what they're doing. Anyone takes action on them, they're like, "Oh, how dare you?" I mean, kind of like the
Right.
movie theater. When I told this group, it's like, hey, I didn't pay $12 to listen to you two talk the whole time. And they were giving me dirty looks, but they did shut up that time. But there could be other
There you
times
go,
where
because it gets the job done. They finally somebody told them, you know.
exactly. But
Yeah.
same thing. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
that's the way I see it. And I know this, not everyone will agree with this, but we're not here to just follow every trend and every fad on this show. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, who did win an Academy Award for Best Actor. And the
I
point of the
did.
movie was that was how the Joker got to be the
Right.
Joker.
Right.
And if you look at it, he didn't just wake up one day, was like, oh, I want to be a villain. No, he was weird or he was different than a lot of people. And he just had some qualities about him that, maybe didn't blend in with the rest of society. And they treated him as an outcast, or he just got made fun of. He got picked on. He got bullied so much that one day he just had enough. It was like, whatever. And then that's when he
Right.
just transformed into the Joker. But nobody
Yeah.
seems to really care how the villain got to be who they are. They're
Right.
just like, oh, let's kill him. He's the bad guy. They
And
got
they
there
actually, I would
somehow.
say that most villains don't even think that they are villains. They actually are fighting for a right cause, and in their own minds, sometimes they're good people. I have a buddy that I play tennis with,
Right.
and he's actually, the way I met him, we were in a league match, and I started losing. I was playing horribly, and he burst out at me, just went crazy on me, saying that I was tanking. So what's happening on the league was that some people were tanking to stay in the level that we're at. I had no chance of getting bumped up like that. I'm not that good to get bumped up, and I was playing at my level, and he was too. We were both at the same level, but he thought that I was tanking, and he just burst at me like, what are you doing, blah blah blah. And I told him, hey man, I know that you're thinking that I'm doing that because I know some people do it. I'm not, and I'm having a bad day. Like, what can I tell you? It's like I'm missing. I'm just trying. So he went at me, right? He says, you're tanking. You're doing what everybody does, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, like I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to play here, man. You're making me play bad. I mean, you're kind of an unorthodox player, so I'm having a tough time with you. And I was like, it's very offensive that you don't believe me, because not only are you kind of saying that I suck, you're also saying that I'm cheating. And in any case, like, we were just enemies at that point, right? I actually quit the match. I told him, like, dude, if you're going to be talking about this every single time I lose a point, we're done. So I walked away. And, the whole team tanked. It was like a 5 against 5. It was just a shabackle. And the guy just started this whole thing for nothing. Any case, later on, we actually became buddies. We became buddies and we started playing a lot together. And he told me, he's like, I thought that you weren't that level. I'm sorry. He kind of didn't really come with a big apology or anything. He was just kind of admitted that he was in the wrong. But he is the Joker. Like, he's that guy. He's that guy that will say to the people in the audience that are talking, hey, shut up. We're trying to watch a movie. What are y'all doing? And I've seen him do it repeatedly. In the tennis court, for example, it's unethical, or, it's type of tennis ethics, to not walk across the court if somebody's playing, for example, a point. You know that? Or
Oh, yeah.
so,
I'm familiar with
say you're
that.
in the public courts and somebody's playing, you cannot just walk right behind them, right? You have to wait for the point to be over. So people do that with him, and he goes berserk. He's like, "What are you doing, walking on the court?" And he's always seen as the bad guy. Like, people like treat him like, "Oh my God, you're this and you're that." I've seen all kinds of stuff playing over the years with him, playing tennis. And in any case, man, I hope he doesn't watch this this podcast, because I actually like him. He's a good buddy now, but he is that guy. He will lash out immediately at somebody misbehaving, and then he's labeled as the bad guy. But I think he's a necessary evil, just like the Joker, and those kind of. The Joker's a little different because I mean, in the scene where he commits the murders of those, college kids or whatever they were
Yeah, on the subway.
on the subway, they were beating him up. They
No, but
started beating
they
him up.
were they were going to if he
So
let
in some way there is some argument for self-defense right there. He could have feared for his life. Now, when he deliberately shoots the guy that was running, you cannot make an argument for self-defense there, legally speaking, right? Because the guy is already running. The threat's no longer there. But even then, the fact that they were beating him and messing with the girl before that, he could have thought, I'm in danger for my life. If I don't do something, I will die. And that's where self-defense comes in. But you're
right.
supposed to kind of run after the threat is neutralized,
But
and he
even
didn't
at
do
the
that.
same time, he was still seen as the bad guy for committing the
Right,
crime. So,
right,
but at that point, it's like, what do you do? Just let them beat you up?
exactly. No, I say all of us need to be jokers in some regard. We need to defend ourselves because
Right.
ultimately, it's like you've seen those videos, man. It's crazy how somebody can get attacked in front of a multitude of people and nobody will jump in. you know and that's an attack, like, let alone, somebody steals your phone or your car. Nobody's gonna jump for you, man. And if they do, if somebody does jump, you consider yourself lucky, like.
Well, that's kind of the problem is that they kind of have it to where there have been multiple times people will do something, they'll stab someone or shoot someone just in self-defense, and they're the one that gets charged with the crime. They're the one that like goes to jail, stuff like that. A lot of
Right,
times now, or depending on where you are. And that's probably why a lot of people are afraid to just step in because they don't know, hey, well, what if I get beat up too? Or, well, what if I stop it, but then I go to jail for trying to help this person? So
right,
that's why so many people are on the defense because they don't want to get in trouble. Going back, comparing the one who you played tennis with to the
right,
Joker, I don't know if they're necessarily the same
right,
things because, like, I can understand, like, okay, if he's just kind of being real loud and stuff, saying, hey, like, he's right when he's saying, hey, you can't walk across the court, like, during a
right,
play or something like that, or hey, shut up, we're trying to watch the movie. I mean, if he's doing that immediately, he's right, but I get it how he's kind of comes
right.
off
What
as
the
annoying
way
right
he's going
there.
about it, exactly.
The way I see it is like the
Right,
Joker, someone didn't just like bully him and he was like,
right,
oh, okay, he just started fighting them. This was something that built up over a period of time. It was continuous. It wasn't
right.
just one thing and bam.
And I will say one more thing that the Joker and my buddy have in common is that they have guts. Like, they have the guts to stand up to anyone. And my buddy, like, one time we were playing in a tennis court right next to a basketball court. And the basketball players were being super loud. And these were not the, friendly neighborhood type of guys. These were like the hood kind of guys. And my buddy's like, y'all shut up. Like, he went crazy on him. He's like, y'all are talking about the same thing over and over. And they were being like super loud, like super like off the charts. And my buddy just went off on them, even though he could have put his life in danger. Honestly, I was just in the back like, oh crap, and they were like, shut up, man, get back to your little tennis game, blah blah blah, you little tennis player or whatever. Because that's the one thing that always somebody can make fun of you, is that you play tennis like a girl or something like that. But
Yeah, feel
it
like
takes guts, is what my point. It takes
it
guts.
does. There was one time in a movie, a couple of guys were talking, and I was just saying, like, trying to be cool about it, was like, hey, sorry, like, I'm trying to
It
watch the
doesn't
movie.
work.
Could you
That's the
maybe keep
problem.
it down some? Well,
Them
that
being
time
nice
it
doesn't
did
work.
work. No,
Oh, it did.
they
Oh,
kind of
okay.
looked. They kind of
Well,
looked at me
yeah, yeah. I know what
like
you
I
mean.
was the
Yeah.
problem or stuff like that. That I should have
Right.
just let them talk. They did keep quiet, but
Right.
you are right. How a lot of times you could try to ask
Sometimes they don't
nicely,
notice. Right. Sometimes
and
they
they
don't
just
notice.
keep
But
doing it. That was my point, is that you could try to be nice about it and maybe it will work times here and there, but if you just try to handle it the proper way and they're still like acting up, they're still being annoying, and then you just finally just go, okay, you asked for it, you're still the one that's
yeah,
looked at as the bad guy, and I just feel like it
yeah.
shouldn't be like that.
It's true, man. Like me, like one thing I here in Maine, there's a little waterfall that like to go to. There's a cliff, and I jump off the cliff, and it's a nice swim. Some people go there, and they just leave their stuff like in the middle of like the most like common path or whatever. Like their jeans. It's not even like they took them off and folded them. No, they just like took them off and like let them rip right there, and then their shirts over there and their lunches over there. You're like, okay, this is a place where people gather to like swim or whatever. It's a common place. It's not like out in nature, out in the Goonies. It's actually a place where people go to. It is secluded. It's not like a little beach or anything. It's just a little place where you go take a swim or whatever. But I'm always kind of going like, should I say something like, hey, nobody taught you how to like put your clothes on a fold and just put it in your bag or put all your stuff together? And you can't really say it without sounding like a dick. You can't. So then I don't say anything, and it's whatever. I just make my spot here. But where the problem comes from is like those people that start, talking about the person A in the scenario, the person that's beginning the issue or just being annoying or whatever, or not being a responsible adult, is that their parents weren't strict with them. Like possibly their dad was not strict with them. That's what it comes down to. Like in growing up in Mexico, usually, I mean, most of my friends and me, we had strict dads. Like we were afraid of that, right? Like if we did something wrong, dad, it's like he's gonna get you. And that's the person who would say, hey, don't leave your shit there, put it there. Or when you're in the movies, you don't talk. People are here to watch the movie, not to hear you talk. And he would say it in a mean way or whatever, but he loved you, right? He's your dad, right? It's not like
Yeah.
super
It
afraid
was
of him.
tough love.
It's tough love, exactly. And that's what a lot of people are lacking nowadays. Is nobody tells them nothing. You're perfect the way you are, even though you're annoying, and annoying people in a place where they're going to see a movie. They need a dad to tell them not do that. And then the problem is sometimes like the person comes out like my buddy and tells them, hey, shut up or whatever, and they can't handle it. It's like, you don't tell me what to do. Who the fuck are you? Blah blah blah. It's like they already know how to respond. And it's like, man, you're 16 years old and you're responding to a 50-year-old. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's no respect or no respect for your elders or anything like that going on anymore. It's just everyone for themselves.
I understand. Like, that seems to be kind of how it is. I see kids getting away with so much nowadays, and I kind of think about, man, they should have had to seen the way I had to grow up. And then I'll have a Gen X tell me, you should have seen how I had to grow up. And then a boomer
Yeah.
will be like, well, you should have seen how I had to grow
That's
up.
true, man. That's true. That's
And
true.
my parents told me I was spoiled growing up.
Yeah.
But that was the whole thing. Like, sure, I mean, my parents were better off than a lot of families. My dad grew up poor, but luckily he ended up like working really hard. He ended up not really getting filthy rich, but he made
You did
enough
all right.
to support myself and the rest of the family. So, we were definitely like in a comfortable situation, but at the same time, there were a lot of restrictions. They were huge control freaks, but they were always huge on don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And that's probably why now, if somebody says like one thing to me, like, hey, stop doing that, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to cause any problems, stuff like that. But
Right.
that's the thing is like I kind of have the self-awareness, or even if nobody says anything, I'll
Right.
like be sitting down at a comedy show, someone will be behind me and I'll be like, hey, sorry, am I blocking your view?
Yeah.
But
But
you
that's
kind of have.
nice, man. That's good to have. It's like it's seen as weak, unfortunately in society it's seen as weakness sometimes by some people. But ultimately we need that because it's like for example, when people drive 100 miles an hour, what are you doing? Where are you going? Like
Like,
why
do
you're
you
gonna
want a
be 5
speeding
minutes late?
ticket
Or
or do you want a wreck?
not only that, like you could like you could really hurt someone. You could really hurt yourself. You're driving a 2-ton vehicle, you're gonna cause some damage if you're not careful. And we need to be nice and polite and stuff so society works. And that's actually something that I've been thinking about a lot about is discipline. Like discipline is something that we think about putting on ourselves, right? Like, oh, you have to be disciplined, don't eat the cookie, go work out, whatever, like, do your homework. So discipline in that sense. But if you think about it, discipline is also a word used for punishment. It's like
Exactly.
they discipline you. So the only way to be disciplined is to have consequences. And unfortunately for our stage of evolution, we sometimes need to be spanked, like still. Like we need to be like,
Like metaphorically or like
metaphorically.
actually?
Yeah, yeah.
Not like 50
Metaphorically,
Shades of
so we don't
Grey.
get canceled.
Yeah. So you don't want to do any 50 Shades of Grey stuff?
No, not on YouTube.
Oh, right,
I'll go to
right.
Rumble for that,
Or OnlyFans.
or OnlyFans. Yeah,
Yeah.
they get paid. Then you
That's
get paid.
right. Hey, I'll take that. But no,
Yeah.
you
So
are.
discipline, man. Discipline involves a little bit of hard, like a hard hand coming at you. And watching movies like where they used to whip people up and that kind of thing. I mean, that's too much, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
then
exactly.
there's no lesson there. I mean, you get whipped. Like, it's not about doing it again. It's about like really acting, putting revenge on you and just making you hurt. And I think that's where you draw the line. It's like you're not trying to hurt the person that you're disciplining. You're just disciplining them enough not for them to understand consequences, kind of thing.
Right. When I grew up, it was like a lot of times someone got punished. It was kind of more like, we're not trying to torture you, but we just want you to know, like, hey, don't do
Right.
that.
When I was a kid, getting locked in your room was one thing. And fortunately, I had parents that weren't too strict. They weren't too strict, but they also weren't too lenient either. And that's a good thing because I could have been bad, man. Like, I remember as a kid, I used to like try to get away with shit, and a lot of it was considered like, I mean, I didn't not like crazy bad, but I could get on that path. I could see myself, if I got away with enough shit, I would probably go down that path. But my parents did not let me do that, right? And I'm kind of grateful because you don't need to go down that route, to be complete or happy or whatever it is, or successful. It's just more of an egotistical thing. It's like you're trying to prove that you can get away with shit, but if you
No,
if, if you
I
don't get
understand.
away with it, it's good.
I understand what you're saying because the deal is there are like a lot of rules I had, a lot of restrictions growing up. I feel like it's good that I didn't get into drugs or anything as a kid. And, that's not really something I encourage. Like, if you want to do drugs, that's your thing. But, just
Yeah,
certain things where it's like,
with
sure,
moderation.
like you don't want to get a DWI or you don't want to get an overdose of something. But at the
Right.
same time, there are certain things here and there, like, they kind of told me, hey, if you start drinking, you'll become an alcoholic, you'll get drunk all the time, you'll get 3 DWIs, have your license suspended, end up in prison. Well, I've been drinking for like almost 6 years now. That hadn't happened. Hopefully it
You're
doesn't.
halfway there. You're an alcoholic. You just haven't gotten the DUI yet.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But my point is, in a way, sure, it's good that, there was discipline growing up, but at the same time, you do have to have limits. And part of my problem was like I grew up so sheltered, like I didn't get out much. So then when I did get out in the real world, I wasn't ready for it. I didn't know what to expect. And there are all these unspoken rules in society where it's like you either know it or you don't, but like no one's going to tell it to you. You just kind of have to be able to learn it yourself or just pick up on it.
Well,
And
you learn by making mistakes too. So there's that. I
and
mean,
that's really the thing.
yeah,
It's
and
like
you gotta give people a chance to make mistakes too.
exactly. And that's the thing is you have to really see things from a bunch of different viewpoints in order to kind of realize what fits you better or who you are. Because now I was grown up in a real religious environment and my parents ideally just wanted me to just like go to church and read the Bible and go to college, get a full-time job, and that's it. You go to church, you go to work, and then you just go home. That's really what they wanted. But the way I see it is you got to experience life from different viewpoints. Don't get into anything like really dangerous, but you still have to, go to other environments. They probably didn't want me hanging out at a bunch of dive bars, but just going there has really helped me, like a lot of the social aspects I didn't have growing up. You get to meet different people, you get to kind of get a feel for what's going on and stuff like that. You kind of get to meet average people over there, and then you kind of realize how certain things are. Because, like, there's certain things, like, my parents couldn't tell me, or, like, they would tell me, but I'll be like, no, it doesn't work like that anymore. And they're like, well, back in our day, it was like that. And that really doesn't help because, the world's changed a lot. But then it's like if they think everything's still almost the same, that really doesn't help you at all. And now it's kind of gotten to where there's certain things I know about society that my family doesn't really seem to pick
Yeah,
up
we
on or
we
that
do
they don't realize.
over evolve our parents. I mean, that's just the nature of like getting older. They're
It is, but at the
yeah.
same time, the way I see it is you got to go out and just experience other stuff for yourself. And
Yeah,
that's really what's going to make you more
that's true.
comfortable
Yeah,
with
you gotta.
yourself
Yeah, yeah. You
and
gotta
just kind
follow
of
your own path.
realize what
Yeah,
fits you better. And then you'll kind of realize. And like I said, if you have helicopter parents, you're really not going to make many mistakes. And
yeah.
they kind of had this idea that if you don't make all these mistakes that a lot of people make in high school, then you can bypass them. No, I just ended up making those same mistakes in college and made myself look even more stupid and embarrassing.
And not only that, like also one thing that these helicopter parents could be causing is the the kid or whatever the person to make a huge mistake. Maybe they don't do too many mistakes because the parents always there to protect them. But when they make one, it's a huge one. And
That's the
you've
problem.
seen the videos, people getting arrested or whatever, like doing really stupid shit. And it's like, how did you get here to this point? And then how are you so arrogant about it to not even admit that you made a mistake? You keep going on and how are you like defending yourself? And
Right.
you know,
I mean, if I mess up, I will own up to it. But that's,
yeah, that's a good thing too. Yeah, yeah, that's a
but
good
that
thing.
that kind of goes back
Just be
to
quiet. Don't own up to nothing. Whenever you do something really bad, you just quiet. You
well,
just zip it.
sometimes people say
Just
that
zip
as
it.
like don't claim it, and I know there's certain things it's like don't ask, don't tell. But like a lot of times, if there's friends of mine, I had too much to drink. Sometimes we'll have what they call hangxiety, where I'll wake up and be like, "Oh no, was I mean to anyone?" Next time I see them, I'll be like, "Hey, sorry. I know I got drunk, but I was being nice to everyone, right?" And they were like, "Yeah, you're always nice."
It's mostly in your head kind of thing.
It pretty much is, because that's the whole thing, is that, and a lot of it probably goes back to just a lot of things that I was raised to see as, hey, that's evil or that's bad. But then it's, I'll kind of feel like I'm not supposed to be enjoying it. There's that feeling of guilt somewhere in the back of the head.
It's good to explore these ideas, man. I like this.
So basically, I think it's good to be disciplined, but at the same time, you have to allow people to make mistakes. And that was the problem is you don't make any mistakes at a young age, you'll make them when you're older and make yourself look even more stupid or you'll feel more embarrassed. And that's kind of the problem. But looking back though, there are all these mistakes I made and I feel horrible when it happened. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm glad that I did do that actually, because now when I get into a similar situation, I know what not to do. So, kind of like what they say, don't let history repeat itself. If you don't make that same mistake happen multiple times, then it wasn't all for nothing.
Yeah, and I think it's a fine line.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today's episode. So, come back next time. See us for another episode of the Napoleon and Gueco podcast.
Take care, guys.
All right. Peace.